wanna be like Cardi, I wanna be like Candace. Own a couple businesses, you wanna be like the Ratchets. Wanna be like Candace, young woman in a phantom. You need a man to buy you things, or you throwing a tantrum. Wanna be like Candace, I'ma pass on Michelle. Ain't no Hillary in me, you should put her in a cell. Wanna be like Candace, loyal and committed. Cardi got these girls, this loyal and vindictive. I'ma work hard to get somewhere and not spread my legs. I feel sorry for these thirst traps, all they do is beg. She ain't worked for that Louis purse, she just got paid. Only fans with the facial look like she just got egged. Cardi make these girls think being a thought is wise. 3 abortions later, that's a triple homicide. In the strip club, living the drug-induced life. Fake butt, fake titties, fake teeth, fake ice.
What's going on, America? I'm the right-winged angel, Oliver Mack. And today, in another episode of Right Angle with Oliver Mack, I have a very special guest, Savannah Craven. How's it going?
Going great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. So today, guys, we're going to talk about a very controversial topic that shouldn't be controversial, but it is because the left is crazy. We're going to talk about abortion and how it affects us today, how it affects the Black community, how it affects the United States of America. And yeah, so before we get started, why don't you tell everybody how you began to be such a staunch anti-abortion or pro-life advocate?
Absolutely. So it all started with my senior year of high school. My best friend got pregnant, and immediately, I was more pro-life, but I thought abortion, was okay or acceptable in certain circumstances.
Mhm.
And immediately when she told me that she was pregnant, I just felt like she was meant to have this baby.
Mhm.
And she told me that, her sister had abortions before and that she just couldn't do it at this moment, right? She felt so
Yeah.
alone, and I told her, I was like, girl, you're going to get more help with this child than you are just being, on your own. And she was a little bit of a party girl and, didn't really know what her plans were after high school. But soon she realized like that maybe she started to question, like, maybe this is something that was meant for me.
Mhm.
And so I begged her for like a week, please don't do this. Please don't do
Yeah.
this. And she went ahead and booked the appointment. And our abortion clinic, the closest one near us, is a couple hours away. So it would be, quite a drive. And the night before, she went and filled up her tires so that she was ready to go on her drive. And she went on her way and she called me. And I think it was in my second or third period. And she called me and she was crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, is it over with? Like, did it hurt? Are you okay?
Mhm.
And she was like, no, I didn't go. And I was like, what? And she's like, I woke up this morning and one of my tires was flat.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, if that is not a sign from God, I don't know what is.
Absolutely.
And so this was meant for her. And it's so crazy now because her son is going to be 3 this year. And
Mhm.
we just like laugh about it because like that was always him, right? That was always that unique human being that is her son. And it's just a beautiful thing. So I went to college in a very different type of school. It's a very liberal arts school in
Mhm.
New York City.
Oh, New
And
York.
yeah, and abortion was just something that nobody really talked about, but it happened to come up one day in the dining hall where these girls had just gone out for one of their birthdays that past weekend. And she was talking about how she had slept with this guy and that she hoped that she wasn't pregnant. And if she was, she said, and I quote, I'm going to head right down to that Planned Parenthood and get rid of it. And her
Wow.
friends laughed. And I happened to turn around and I didn't mean for this to come out as loud as it did, but I said, well, I wouldn't. And I swear to you, everyone turned around and looked at me like they had just seen a ghost. Like I just said
Wow.
the most ridiculous thing ever.
Mhm.
And she was like, one of the girls was like, I mean, do you realize you'd have to leave school? Like your life would be over. And I'm like, well, you know what you were getting yourself into when you decided to engage in those activities, right?
Mhm.
So after that, I sort of became known as like this weird pro-life girl. And, not too long after the 2020 stuff started going on, and I basically came home from college and was super lost because people that I thought were my friends started engaging in like the Black Lives Matter protests and riots. And I just knew it was a whole sham.
Mm-hmm.
And I just found myself really lost, and I decided to start doing my research. It was going to be my first time I was going to be able to vote. I knew that I was going to vote Republican, but I just wanted to know why and make sure that everything that, you know, Trump was standing for that I aligned with. And so I started doing research on abortion in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a video from Live Action that my friend James O'Keefe actually did with them. I think it was in 2011. And it's where he was calling Planned Parenthood and asking them if he could fund a race-specific abortion. So an abortion specifically for an African-American baby. And they were like totally open to it.
Really?
And we know that, yeah, it's crazy. And so we know, you know, why Planned Parenthood was started and that Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist and
Mm-hmm.
believed that there should just be one race. And that just shocked me. And I was like, why isn't Black Lives Matter talking about this? I mean, they're calling everyone white supremacists. They're saying if you don't support George Floyd, you're a white supremacist, or you hate Black people, or you're not an ally. But they're not talking about that this industry is targeting Black people and minorities. And that just really just struck home to me. And I was like, if we don't respect the most vulnerable, the people that literally cannot do anything to defend themselves, why do we even care about anyone else?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that just really hit home with me. And I, you know, just started doing more research, and I was just shocked. And I ended up seeing a video of what an abortion really looks like. And that's when I was like, I have to start telling people about this. Like this, I can't believe this is even happening. And so I just started using my platform to talk about it. And yes, here I am today.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I know there's a lot of young ladies out there that probably experienced the same thing. You know, they thought, hey, I'm going to go get an abortion. I'm going to terminate this pregnancy. And then something happened that stopped them. And then that child was born. And there's probably a lot of children today that, you know, would have been aborted, but they grew up to be great people. Case in point, Kanye West could have been aborted, right? And he grew up to be a billionaire. So, you know, we really have to, and I don't know where things started to shift, because back in the day, probably in the 80s and 90s, you know, if you got an abortion, like it was something that you did in secret, something that you weren't proud of, something that you were ashamed of, and you didn't want to tell anybody that you did it. But we have a lot of females today, of course they're liberal, that basically come out and they praise abortions. They say, hey, I don't care if I get an abortion, I'll get 100 abortions. And speaking of, I'll get 100 abortions, there's this video that I saw, and I want to play it for you guys. This was Savannah Hernandez. She was out in California doing some woman on the street interviews, and she talked about abortion, and she talked to this lady, which, oh my God, I don't know what kind of family she was raised in. I don't know what kind of upbringing she had. I don't know what kind of torture or torment she went through as a child or as an adult, but what she said about what she would do to another human being was just incredible. It was just awful. So I'm going to play this video for you guys. You check it out, and then we're going to talk about it after.
This is Savannah Hernandez here in Venice Beach. Now, California is trying to pass a bill to legalize infanticide 7 days post-birth. Let's go see what Californians think of the bill.
So I prefer that most women make their decisions at 8 weeks, but I'm also in support of 10 months out of the womb.
So you think babies should be aborted 10 months after they're born?
If the mother wants to, yes.
I think fuck them kids. So if like you want to get a late-term abortion, like that's up to you. You know, I've had an abortion too, and it was my choice, and I'm happy I had that choice.
Because if you're talking about like post-birth, that's not considered an abortion. Like you can look up abortion in the dictionary.
So would it be considered murder at that point?
I mean, if somebody were to, abandon their child in a dumpster, they would be, and they were found, like, yes, they would be charged. Like, there are actual cases of that happening. That's child neglect. And anyone who's putting their child in harm's way, like, I think there should be definitely like things put in place to make sure that children are safe. Anything that is, pre-birth, if it involves termination of a fetus, that's considered an abortion. I 100% support it. I've had an abortion myself. I'm not a bad person because I made the choice that was right for me, and now I have a life that I enjoy, and I wouldn't take it back.
Would you guys get an abortion again?
Yes.
100%.
100
yeah.
times. I'd do it multiple times.
Until I feel that I'm ready to parent, that's a choice I'll continue to make.
Yeah, that was sick.
Yeah.
She said she would have 100 abortions. She said, "F them kids," right? Like, how do we get here, Savannah? How did we get here to where abortion is just seen as, it's women's right, and people are praising it. People are acting like it's such a great thing. It's such an powerful thing to kill a human being. How did we get here?
Right. Well, I mean, they've completely dehumanized this group of people, and the pro-aborts, the left, they hate when I say this on my social media, but abortion is the new slavery. It's the new Holocaust. We're taking a certain group of people that are still human beings, and we're saying, you're not valuable, you're not worthy, you're not equal to me. And so therefore I can use you as my property. I can do whatever I want with you. There are people out there that literally still believe that the unique human life growing inside of a pregnant woman is not a human being.
Right.
And I'm like, what else could it be? Only human beings can reproduce other human beings. As much as I'd love to have, if I'd love to have a cat or a koala bear or a giraffe, I just can't. I can only reproduce other human beings, right? So there's nothing else that it could be. And that argument is so old. We're so advanced in science now that we know that a baby in the womb is a human being. And these people are just so lost on that. And the thing is they get so upset about it because they truly know what they're doing. But we have a society that is ruled by these pro-choice men and these weak men that go around, and of course it's women too, but we've devalued sex, we've devalued who we decide to give ourselves to. And therefore, abortion is just something that we can just go, oh, well, at least we have that. And so I can just get an abortion. I can forget all about it, or I can get my girlfriend an abortion, or this girl that I'm sleeping with an abortion, and I'll never have to worry about it again. I don't have to take responsibility. But we know that it's more than that. Abortion not only takes an innocent human life, but it also hurts women. When you take a baby out of a woman's womb, she's, from the moment of conception, whether she can feel it or not, she's already had a unique bond with that baby. It's her baby, right? And so when we take that from her, it takes a part of her as well. And that's what I just really want people to know. And also with certain circumstances, rape and, other instances like that, they're always used to justify abortion. But who are you to say, if you're walking down the street, you can't pick out people, oh, well, he was conceived in rape, so he's less valuable. Oh, she was conceived by two loving parents that were married, so she deserves to live more than him. Absolutely not. We can't tell, right? Every human being matters, no matter how they came into this world. And the fact that the pro-choice movement just wants to pick and choose and go about, their own sort of definitions, and they want to live by their own standards. No, there's not like a spectrum of morality that we can just say, well, we can't just judge someone's morality. No, a human being is a human being. And that's what we need to start having respect for.
Yeah. And speaking of these betas, these beta males that walk around talking about, well, women should have a right to choose. It is her body. We just saw the video where the guy is talking about, well, after the birth, the woman should be able to decide whether she wants to terminate her baby. Like, he even said after the birth. So we got a lot of men out here that are champions, that are feminists, right? And they're actually leading a lot to this crazy discussion, and they're making these feminists feel like, oh, they're right to want to terminate the baby, even though the man should have a right too, right? The man should have a say-so too, right? What do you think about people who feel like men should not have a say-so when it comes to abortion?
Yeah, I think it's insane. I mean, going with their logic, saying a certain gender or a certain person can't say something based on, you know, what they look like is totally against what they say that they stand for. And I realized that, like, especially in my comments section, especially on TikTok, whenever a pro-choice man has something to say, all the feminists are all over him. But as soon as a pro-life comes on to speak with me, a pro-life man comes on to speak with me, or has a comment saying I'm pro-life, or, you know, talking about their experience, they just shut them down, say no uterus, no opinion. But
Yep.
then at the same time, apparently men can get pregnant. So, like, I really don't understand. Like, the logic is just so flawed, and
There is no
it's
logic.
just yeah, there's no logic. And it's like, well, you know, if you're not an electrician, you shouldn't be able to have an opinion on light bulbs. If you're
Right.
not, you know, a plumber, you can't have, you know, an opinion on plumbing, right?
Right.
It's silly. Obviously, that's not how it works.
Yeah. They say it takes two to tango, right? When it comes to child support. Oh, by the
Right.
way, you helped make this baby, so you have to pay for this baby, even if you don't want to be in the child's life or not. Like, you have to help pay for this baby. But when it comes to actually terminating a pregnancy, killing that man's baby, oh no, he should not have a say so because
Yeah,
it's the woman's body. Well, you can't have it both ways. Like, you can't
exactly.
say a man shouldn't be included in terms of deciding whether the child lives or dies, but should be included when it comes to financial responsibility. So
Isn't
it's
that
just,
ironic?
yeah, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. But I mean, these feminists, they're just out of control. They're wacky. I just don't understand, you know, where we went wrong. I mean, it just seems like society in general has devalued human life. And the younger we get, the more life is devalued. I mean, I've seen so many different stories. I mean, I report on the most horrible stories imaginable in America. I mean, I just saw this story today about or yesterday about a grandmother who forced her 4-year-old to drink over half a bottle of whiskey and end up killing the little girl because she wanted to punish her because she took a sip, right? So we have situations like that. We have
Wow.
situations where little kids are sold into prostitution by their own parent, and it's just unreal. It's unfathomable how we've gotten to the point where we just devalue human life so much. So when I talk about, I don't know how we got here, I guess I kind of do, because, you know, as the years go on, we continue to see children being put in the most dangerous, awful situations imaginable by their own parent. So, how can I say that a parent is going to care about a child that's in the womb when a lot of these parents don't even care about the children once they're born? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's insane. It's crazy how, as human beings, you know, you think that we have empathy, right? And like everyone does have a soul, but especially now with like California and Maryland trying to pass these bills, and California actually passing this bill to legalize infanticide, saying, you know what, 28 days after your child's born, if you just decide, hey, I don't want this baby anymore, that they can just leave it to die. It's just, I don't understand, like, this selfishness and just this demonic presence has just taken over people, and people are
Yeah.
just like, whatever. But we're literally told, you know, that, oh, you don't have to go to work, you can just stay home and we'll give you a stimulus check, we'll just give you unemployment, you don't have to go to college, we're just, or have good grades, we're just going to send you to free college. Like, when you don't have to do anything or try
Mhm.
to get things in return, and you don't have to care about anyone to get praise and fame or anything like that, what's the point,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And that's what we're teaching, like that's what, not us of course, but this, what this generation is being taught. And these kids are basically, I mean, you see in the school systems what they're, we, who even knows what they're being taught these days by these teachers,
Yeah.
but they're learning everything online, and parents don't even know what their kids are looking up or watching, and
Mhm.
it's just a mess.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it all goes back to the breakdown of the family structure, right? When you have a kid and you bring a kid into the world that you actually planned for, right? That you actually took the time to make sure that the nest was set up, that you had a father in the home, you got married first, and you were loving that man. And then you both decided, mutually decided, okay, it's time to start our family. Okay, it's time to bring a child into the world. Things turn out a whole lot better when things go that way. But we have a lot of people that are talking about, especially the feminists, that are talking about the fact that, well, you don't need a man to raise a child, right? You don't need a man. A woman can do it on her own. But they don't realize, or they lie about the fact that it is so hard to raise a child with one person, right? It's so hard financially, it's so hard emotionally to actually raise that child and raise that child right. You're stretched so thin because you have to work probably more than you ever thought you had to work just to make sure you had enough money to pay the rent and provide for that child. But when you have two incomes, it makes it a lot easier. But we have these people that are contributing to a lot of what I see going on. I mean, a lot of the abortions that you see, there's probably not a man in the picture. A lot of these situations that you see where horrible things are happening to the child, there's no man in the picture. So I think if we can get back to, the nuclear family and making sure that the nuclear family is strong, then I think we will start to see, a decrease in the amount of abortions that we're seeing, especially in the Black community. I mean, I saw a stat last year where it was like 30% of all Black pregnancies end in abortion.
Yep.
Like, that is crazy. That is crazy. But these are not situations where it's a married couple that had a child or got pregnant and decided to have an abortion. This is a situation where a woman was trying to do it on her own. So what do you think? Do you think it's important to have the family structure back? Do you think having the family structure and rebuilding the family structure would lead to at least a decrease in abortions?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said before, valuing the person that we have sex with and valuing ourselves enough
Mhm.
to know, like, do I, want to have a kid with this person? Do I want this person to be the father or the mother of my child? Are they worthy of something like that? And
Mhm.
once we start realizing that, and again, humanizing that child, that people that are engaging in those sort of acts, like 99% of the time, I'm pretty sure they know that you can have a baby from that, right?
Mhm.
So knowing that and taking that risk, you should think twice. And when Roe v. Wade is overturned and abortion is illegal, I do believe that it will make people think, well, I know I can't get an abortion. I know I can't just get out of this situation. So do I really want to lay down and sleep with this person? And of course, waiting for marriage or waiting for when you feel the time is right and you really trust this person, not just giving yourself to them right away.
Right. So how do you think we get back to that? Do you think it's about just ending abortion, or do we have to change the culture?
We definitely have to change the culture. We need to start teaching our kids from a young age. I don't believe that sex ed should be something that's taught in school. I don't believe sexuality and relationships things should be taught by teachers. If I want to send my kid to school, I expect them to learn the basics: science, math, social studies, English, and recess. And whenever they get to that appropriate age where the parent feels like, okay, we should have this conversation. And of course, if it's a girl, they need to know about their reproductive cycle and things like that. And I believe that parents should talk to their daughters about that. But at a certain age, they also need to know, you are capable of getting pregnant. And I just want you to know that that is a risk that could happen. That's something that could happen if you decided to engage in acts like that, and to know that you're too young to be doing that. And
Mhm.
there's no one your age that is ready to take on such a life-changing situation like that.
Mhm. Right. Yep. I think it's unfortunately, I don't think enough parents are having that conversation. Like, I honestly don't think they're having that conversation. You know, I think it's important to let our kids know, what can happen. What are the consequences of all the actions that you could take in life?
Right.
What is going to happen to you if you do this? I mean, we hope and we pray that our children will wait until marriage, but we know it's very hard for kids out there, especially being peer pressured by their peers, what they see on TV or in movies and different things like that. So I know it's very, very hard. But we got to put it out there. We got to tell them, hey, we think this is the best route for you. Of course, I'll have to tell my kid, I'm sorry, I didn't take that route. I wish I did, though. I really wish I did. It would have made life a whole lot better for me. But as a parent, I think it's important that you learn from my mistakes, and that's what I would tell my kid. But definitely, we would want them to wait until marriage because there's so many things that you can get into if you don't. Especially with our females out there, they end up getting pregnant. You don't know this guy. You don't know if this guy is going to stick around. You don't know if this guy is going to be abusive. Someone was telling me about their story and how uh, they didn't wait till marriage and they were with this guy, ended up getting pregnant by this guy. They were with them for a while, but once she got pregnant and once she had the kid, then the guy ended up being abusive, and then she had to leave him and now she's a single mother. So it's like, it's a risk that you take when you lay down with somebody that you hadn't made vows with. You lay down with somebody that you hadn't really, that hasn't really invested in you. That's what I always say when it comes to marriage. Like, you want a man that's going to invest in you. And the best investment that a man can put into a woman is making her a wife. That just tells a woman right there that I'm going to be here for the long haul. I'm not here because we had a child together, right? I'm here for you. So if a woman knows that that man is here for them, not because they feel obligated to be there because they had a child, then they'll know, okay, there's some security here. So now I know once there's security here, then I feel better about having this baby. I feel better about bringing a child into the world because I know this child is going to be in a stable environment. But unfortunately, not a lot of people do that.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we've raised up this generation of boys that think they don't have to take responsibility. And if they get a girl pregnant, to be like, oh, well, I can just leave. But then again, that's the left and the whole feminist movement saying, we hate men, go away, men. But then, men can have no opinion, but oh, shame on men for not taking responsibility. But we put men down. They put men down all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So like, how do you expect a man to take responsibility when you tell him he can't have any opinions? What he says and does doesn't matter. And he can just, a woman can just do it on her own. Single women, single mothers are absolutely incredible. I think it makes the job, a million times harder. I was raised by a single mom who worked multiple jobs for me to have everything that I needed. But of course, it's not ideal. It's possible, but of course, it's not ideal. And so we want to start teaching our children that, that is a big risk that's a situation you could end up in, and it's not ideal. And it is important for you to pick someone that is going to be loyal to you and be a good father and be good to you.
Yeah. So in the Black community, of course, we're going to talk about that because we're both Black. But, we see a out of wedlock birth rate that's like 70%, right? The highest of any other racial demographic in the country. Like you said, you came from a single parent situation. Do you believe that life was harder for you due to that situation?
I do remember a couple of times where, things seemed a little bit hard or my mom seemed overwhelmed, but really, I mean, she just was so good at just making me feel like everything was amazing all the time. I never knew any different. It was always just me and my mom. Like, she's always been my best friend, and we were able to go on vacations together. And I was always, in dance classes or doing something extracurricular. And so I was just really, really lucky. But of course, I'm sure, it was hard on her. And, but she did amazing. She didn't let me see that struggle. So.
And that's awesome because unfortunately, there are a lot of children out there when they are raised in these single parent environments where they do get to see the struggle, and
Mhm.
it is really unfortunate. And I would wish that you know people would kind of think about that, how life is going to be for that child,
Right.
before they even make the decision to sleep with somebody. Like if I do end up pregnant, like how is life going to be for my child? Like what kind of person am I choosing to have sex with? And there's just so many women out there that are kind of incentivized. I know this is not your situation, but there are a lot of women that are incentivized to have babies on their own because of the government assistance, right?
Exactly.
Because of the subsidization of single motherhood, because they can get on Section 8, they can get on food stamps, they can get on welfare. So there's a lot of women that have chosen to pretty much kick the men out of their lives. I
Yeah.
remember watching this video and it came from the 1970s, and I wish I could find this video, but I cannot. But these, like, it was a group of women there. They were doing an interview with a group of women, and they were basically saying, like, no, I don't need a man in the house. If I don't have a man, then I can get this and I can get this, and I don't have to work. So,
Yeah.
we had the Great Society Act that led to all this, and you can even see in the stats where things just took a drastic turn for the worst in terms of the family structure in the Black community. Um, 19 late 1960, 1970, you just saw the single parenthood rate just shoot up, and we haven't been able to corral that. We've kind of stayed and hovered within the 70s in terms of single parenthood rate, and it's kind of you know it's kind of unfortunately leading to a lot of the things that we're seeing, especially in the Black community with the violence. A lot of these boys, they're growing up raised without a father. They end up getting involved in drug and gang activity because they're looking for a father figure, and it's unfortunate. But when there's no father in the home, they're looking for some kind of male figure to look up to, and a lot of times we see them gravitating to that. Even I used to be a big fan of Tupac. He even talked about it. He said
Yeah.
that he gravitated to the drug dealers because he was looking for a father figure, and I see that a lot. So, what do you think about the lack of fatherhood in the Black community? Do you think it's an issue, or are we okay?
No, it's definitely a huge issue. If we look back 50 years ago, the majority of Black families were married and they had multiple children, and the father worked and provided, and the mother was home taking care of the children. And
Mhm.
we've just strayed from that. I believe, I'm not sure of all the statistics, but when Obama came in, I believe there was a huge rise in the Black community being on welfare and being dependent on the government. And that's just a shame. I mean, how do we ever expect to evolve as a community and have better for our children if we're just giving handouts and we're saying, father, you don't need to take responsibility, you don't need to be there for your wife or your girlfriend or your children,
Yep.
because honestly you're gonna hurt them because you're not gonna make as much money. Absolutely not. I
Mhm.
mean, there's nothing like a father and there's nothing like a mother. And a little girl needs her father to see the type of man that she is going to look for, because we see a lot of girls that grow up without, a good father figure. They go
Mhm.
down a path of just seeking this male validation,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
From men that are not exactly what you want for, a woman.
Right.
And then, like you said, with men, they go looking for that sort of bondage somewhere else, and it often leads to crime.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And it's definitely a shame. Um, but it is what it is at this point. I mean, I hope and pray that things turn around for the Black community. I'm very involved in the Black community. I have a lot of family that still live in these environments, these rough environments, and I just pray that one day we'll wake up. But if we continue to vote the same way, if we continue to support the same policies that have led to a lot of this stuff that's going on, then I mean, unfortunately, I don't see things getting better. I mean, I'm from New Orleans, so my hometown is bad. And
Right.
I live in Houston now, and Houston is just getting worse and worse and worse. So, and unfortunately, a lot of the violence that we see, a lot of the murders are Black people. They're of and by Black people.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And when you look at it, like the statistic, you'll see that over 50% of all the murders in the United States of America are Black people dying, right? But Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter doesn't care about that.
Right. Yeah. Black men are only like 9% of the population, I
Six
believe.
percent, 6%.
Oh, is it 6%? Oh,
Yep,
wow.
6%.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a shame. Clearly, there is a problem there. And we see, BLM buy large mansions. They don't care
Mhm.
about Black people. Did you
Yeah.
ever get your reparation check?
No, no, I didn't. Mm-mm.
No, I never got mine.
No, I don't
So-
want it either. I don't need a reparations. What are reparations for?
Exactly.
You know what my reparations are, Savannah? My reparations are the fact that I think it was over 100,000 white people died in the Civil War just to end slavery, just so I could be born free in the United States. That's all the reparations I need.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just crazy. And it's like people try to say things to white people on my page and they're like, your ancestors did this to me. I'm like, okay, that might not even be true. How do you know that my ancestors or somebody else's ancestors
Right.
were plantation owners and owned slaves?
There was a small percent of the population who owned
Right.
slaves back then.
And also, what does that have to do with me or you or the person that you're like, what does that have to do with me? Am I a slave owner? Is my mom a slave owner? No. So why should she have to pay for what her ancestors might have done?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Right. Oh, so you're mixed, right? You mixed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I thought about that. I'm like, is she mixed? Because I know I call her Black, but she may be mixed. But yeah. So you're half Black. Your dad is Black.
My dad's actually Black and white. He's got
Oh,
like
okay.
yeah. So
So you're like 1/4 Black.
yeah. That's why they try to revoke my card.
Okay, that's all right. They took mine, so it's all good. It's all
Right.
good. I really don't care. They can call me a coon or Uncle Tom. Like I really don't care. Like that's the dumbest
They
thing
think
ever.
that Uncle Tom is an insult, but he
It's
actually
not.
died saving other slaves. So like, I just don't. It's
Right.
like nothing the left ever says like has
Makes
any
any
like
sense.
logic or like if you actually even look into it just a little bit, it's like wait, that makes absolutely no sense.
And do you know who wrote Uncle Tom?
I don't.
But do you? Okay, so the person who wrote Uncle Tom was an abolitionist.
Okay, I think
So-
I think I know that, but what was
Yeah.
was
I
it?
can't remember her name, but the reason I said that is they call Black people who don't agree with them Uncle Toms, but Uncle Tom, the main character in Uncle Tom was freeing the slaves, and the white woman who wrote Uncle Tom was also freeing slaves. She was an abolitionist.
Yeah,
So it's like the whole thing is just stupid. Like that's why I try to educate people whenever they call me. Or they say, "Oh, you're Uncle Tom," and that word holds no water anymore. I don't think it even like it just rolls off people's back. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's like a badge of like Coon and Uncle Tom's like a badge of honor today. It's like, oh, you get called a Coon or Uncle Tom. Well, you must have said something that was correct. So
exactly. Because
that's
they
the
can't
only reason.
anything else. They're like all little robots. They're like, oh, that must be cool to say. I'm gonna say that. Like,
Yeah. Yep, but it is what it is. So I wanted to ask you something because you do music, right?
I do.
Yeah, you do music. So I wanted to talk about that. You had a song that went viral about Candace Owens.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us how that came about.
Yeah. So I had been taking a break from college in like the middle of 2020
Mhm.
when all the stuff was going on. And I was like, I'm gonna go back to college in the fall. And New York was still pretty much on lockdown when the next semester was starting. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start back online and I'm gonna try to find some friends because this was like after the election and everyone had pretty much like unfriended me in real life and online because
Same thing happened to me.
yeah, I came out and said, I voted for Trump, y'all, and I was really proud.
Mhm.
And basically I was getting like 5-minute long messages from people that I went to school with calling me like embarrassing and that they don't even see me as a sister. And I'm like, okay, I don't care. Like, yeah, it was crazy. And so I felt really, really alone and lost. And I just was like, you know what? Maybe I'm just not meant to be a singer. Maybe I'm not meant to do this. I need to find something else to do. And my mom was like, you need to stop. Like, you're good at what you do. You just need to find your tribe. And so I decided to sign up for Turning Point USA's SAS in December of 2020. And I got accepted and I decided to go. It was in West Palm Beach. And I was just overwhelmed by the amount of love and passion that I had seen from people my age. I literally thought there was no one out there my age that thought the same as me. And then I met with like over 3,000 students that think exactly the same as me. And it was like, wow, it was crazy.
Awesome.
And so I just got super duper inspired. I started looking up other events and I went to a Young Americans event in Miami in early February. And then I decided that I wanted to go to CPAC. So I went to CPAC and I ended up meeting a couple MAGA rappers, I guess you could call, and I had told them that, you know, I was interested in doing music and that I was a musical theater major, but I'd never really like done rap before. And so I had Be Like Candace, and it was kind of like a test. It was like, oh, I kind of wrote it for fun. And then, you know, they were like, well, this seems cool. Let's see if we can do something with this. And we ended up putting a cool beat to it. And I just wanted to make the video look super fun. And basically, this is like all in God's timing, right? Because I released a song, and not only a couple days later, like Candace and Cardi were beefing on Twitter. And in the song, it's kind of like a Cardi B diss. And then also like, I want to be like Candace, like you want to be like Cardi, I want to be like Candace type of thing. And so, yeah, it just pretty much worked out perfectly. And Candace saw it within like 12 hours and reposted it. And then they actually asked for me to say if they could play it on the first episode of her show on the Daily Wire. So that's when it really went crazy and everyone started seeing it, and it was just awesome. So
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, the song is really, really cool. That's when I first heard about you and saw you on that song. That was cool because I actually reposted that as well. So yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Really, really cool song. Yeah, and I'm glad that Candace got to hear it. I'm glad that it went viral. It was awesome. Who did you work with? Because I know a lot of MAGA rappers. So who was somebody that you worked with on the song?
So it was like Forgiato, Blow, A360. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Awesome. Yeah, I used to do music back when, you know, I was a gangster. But
we're a gangster.
yeah, I changed my life and I don't do that anymore. But anyway, yeah, music is always like it's probably, you know, one of the most important things to me. If I'm not doing politics, then I'm into music, doing something with music. So it's really cool to hear people like you can come out and say how they feel. And, you know, it's not mainstream, it's not what the industry wants to hear, but you have a lot of passion behind what you're saying, and it's, you know, it's how you feel. So it's super cool that you got that out there. So next question. When's the next song coming out?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I've just been so focused on working with live action and Students for Life now, and I'm getting really involved in my hometown of Myrtle Beach. And I've been actually working with this girl who goes to Coastal Carolina University, and we've been putting this pro-life group together at my school. I've also done a couple of shows and musicals with conservatives. I was in a production of Oklahoma with James O'Keefe and a bunch of other canceled artists at the end of last summer. And then I was in another show with the same production company outside of Atlanta. And I just was doing James O'Keefe's book launch. I performed in a role in that, and that was in January. So we'll see. You know, I'm of course very passionate about, you know, my music and continuing my acting career, but I just feel honestly that right now God is calling me and using me to fight for these children. I just feel like more than ever, these babies are under attack. And if we're not going to say anything about it, who is, you know?
Awesome. Amen. Hey, I appreciate your fight. Hopefully you'll inspire more women to get out and speak up about this. Hopefully you'll change a lot of minds because, unfortunately we have a lot of women that are thinking that their womanhood is under attack just because they can't go out and murder a baby. Like
Right.
it's sickening. So
And we as pro-life women and pro-life men, we want women to know that you are stronger than your circumstances, and that even if you don't decide to parent, it's not morally your right to decide whether a child gets to live or not. I tell my followers, I tell people that comment, we're not forcing the mother to actually parent her child or the father to parent his child. We're just saying that at least give this child a chance,
yeah.
right? There are over 2 million families in America waiting to adopt a precious baby. And, I've even offered, like, I will take a baby. I'm definitely not ready for one, but I will take your baby. I say that to people because every child is a gift from God. It says in Jeremiah that he formed you in the womb. He set you apart. He knew you. And so who are we as children of God? Of course we're sinners, but who are we to ruin God's creation?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But I think a lot of this comes from, the fact that a lot of people have gotten away from God.
Yeah.
We're living in a kind of a godless society where people feel like they don't need God. They don't need God for anything. They feel like they can do everything on their own, or they're non-believers. I don't know, but I feel like if people followed God and followed God's word, there would be no way that a lot of this stuff would be going on today, because it's outlined there for you in the Bible, right? How we should live, what we should and shouldn't do. And if people just follow that, I think there would be no question about what decisions you should make in your life. But people have gotten away from that. People have decided to leave God alone. And, I don't know, where do you think that came from? When did people stop, following God?
There's just been many times. I think especially nowadays, it's this whole thing where it's like almost cool to like be like mentally, disabled and have issues and be sick or feel like you don't want to do anything and blaming it on anything else but yourself, right? And saying, well, I can be a girl boss and I can be a dude and just walk around and think I'm hot stuff when I don't have a job or I don't do this, and no one's going to care because I have like the social media life where I can make people think whatever of me and not really worry about it, right? Like we see people online and we know deep down that they're not really living that life that they look like on the internet, right? So it's so easy to just fake, and that's why like mental health issues and suicide rates are through the roof. It's because people are living a lie and they're trying to make their own definitions, their own truth. But there's only one truth, that's God's truth. And if you don't turn to him, you're going to be lost. It's just how it is. And I was at that point where I was like, at my wit's end. I'm just like, I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm unmotivated. And then I just gave my life to God, and he started opening all these doors for me. And he says, Savannah, finally, you've listened to me. I've been trying to get into your head. I've been trying to tell you to focus, and you're finally here. And of course, we're going to stray off that path. But the fact that I know now that he's always going to be there for me is what is so comforting and what keeps me to keep pushing through, right? Despite the hate, despite, how much I feel like I've risked, coming out and just being unapologetically myself. It's hard, but God challenges us. But through the whole journey, he loves you and he cares about you, and he's going to be there for you.
Ooh, amen. Thank you so much for saying that. I think a lot of people needed to hear that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and end it here. Why don't you give your last words and tell everyone where they can find you?
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. This has been awesome. And thank you, Oliver. You can find me pretty much at any social at Savannah A. Craven. I'm on Truth Social now, and Getter, and TikTok, and Instagram, of course. So, yeah.
Awesome. thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, Savannah. It was a great conversation. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I think you inspired a lot of people. So awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, I'm the right winged angel, Oliver Mack. Please hit that like button if you liked it. If you didn't, still hit the like button. Share this video, comment, subscribe. Also, visit rightwingedangelsstore.com. Get some cool merch, just like this shirt. All right, catch you on the next video. Peace.